The writer of Psalm 11 asks a question that I think all of us ask ourselves from time to time in our lives. He might ask it a little differently, but he says it this way. He says, when the foundations are being destroyed, what are the righteous to do? You know what a foundation is? A foundation is the bottom part of a building, the base part that holds the rest of the building up. When the foundation is strong, the building will remain standing. When the foundation is weak or cracked or broken or entirely missing, the building's likely to fall over. And of course, the psalmist isn't talking about a building foundation. He's talking about the foundations of our lives. The things that when they're there, they make us feel safe and secure and confident, but when they're missing, well, we feel something entirely different. And apparently during the holiday season, a lot of people feel that some things that are very foundational are missing. I recently read back in 2017, 31% of people said that they feel more lonely and more sad during the holidays than they do compared to any other time of the year. I read that last year, the number wasn't 31%, it was 55%. 55% of people feel more lonely and sad during the holiday season than they do compared to any other time of the year. And I also read in the same article that 36% of people say that they're too embarrassed to admit that they feel more lonely or sad during the holiday season than they do compared to any other time of the year, because it would be kind of embarrassing to admit you feel that way during what is known as the most wonderful time of the year. But you add those two numbers together, 55% and 36%. I don't think those can be the same people. The people who admit that they feel lonely and sad and the ones who are too embarrassed to admit it, that's 91% of people who feel more lonely and sad during the holidays than they do compared to any other time of the year. I don't know if the numbers are accurate. I don't know if they ask you how you feel during the holiday season, but I do know that we often ask ourselves the question that when something foundational is being destroyed or taken away or it's gone, like a job or health or a loved one or a relationship, we ask ourselves what we're supposed to do about it. And it's interesting that in Psalm 11, the psalmist never answers that question. In the rest of the psalm, he never gives us anything to do when the foundations of our lives are being destroyed. Instead, he reminds us of something God is doing. He says God is sitting on his throne. God is sitting up in heaven, and he's not just doing nothing, he's watching. He's overseeing, he's observing, he's evaluating, and he's taking action in the same way he did at Christmas. For Mary and Joseph, that first Christmas took so many foundational things away from them because Caesar Augustus issued a decree that a census should be taken of the entire Roman world. And so Joseph had to go from Nazareth to Bethlehem, which was not a short journey. That would have been minimum 3-day journey. So minimum 3-day journey going one way to register and leaving behind his job and his friends, his responsibilities, whatever comforts of home there were. And of course, Mary is like 9 months pregnant while this is happening. That's not a very comfortable ride. But that's what they did. Foundations of their lives, they were being destroyed. And why were they being destroyed? Because Caesar Augustus issued a decree? Maybe. But it's more accurate to say the foundations, or at least those particular foundational type things in their lives, were being taken away because God was keeping a promise. In the book of Micah, God promised that the Savior of the world would be born in a particular place, and it wasn't Nazareth, it wasn't Jerusalem, it was a rinky-dink little town called Bethlehem. Bethlehem. And so as Caesar Augustus, an unbeliever, who as far as we know never believed in God, never loved God, issued this decree to maybe build up his own ego more than anything else, God was using that to accomplish something really great. To remind you that he can use anything, and he will use everything that he oversees to keep a promise. And what kind of promise? Well, in John chapter 1, it begins talking about Jesus coming into the world when it says, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. And then it says, we have seen his glory. And of course, when Jesus was born, the world saw the glory of God. We have seen his glory. The glory of the one and only who came from the Father, full of, do you know what word is next? Full of grace full of grace. And grace is when God treats us better than we deserve. It's when God gives us something good that we could never give ourselves. Something good we would never have the right to expect. And there in Christmas, the gift of God in this world, side by side with people like us, here to laugh and cry and walk through life. And most importantly, here to save us from this place, to prepare a place for us in the only home where nothing foundational will ever be missing again. Well, as God is up in his throne in heaven doing all those wonderful things, overseeing all things graciously and for your benefit, you know what that makes him? That makes him your foundation. The one on whose promises and whose truth and whose grace you can always stand, no matter what's missing, because God never is. Rest well tonight, my friends.